Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This on the fact that we have started some fundamentals of networking. One of the key concepts we should know, we should read and study and restudy all the time is this one you are seeing on the screen. Why? This is the basic concept we use every day on the job, every day. It is not what we need to learn and let it go. So we still need to visit it again and again. In our day-to-day conversation in the job, we refer to this model. And then, like we said last week, we talk about OSI model, we talk about TCP/IP model. So now, as you can see on my screen, both of them look alike, but TCP/IP was condensed from 3 layers of OSI model to 1. And then from the bottom side, the 2 layers from the bottom was condensed to 1. So if you look at it side by side, see on OSI model, we have physical layer, data link layer, network layer, transport layer, session layer, presentation layer, and an application layer. And then on TCP/IP, we have network access layer. We have internet layer, we have transport layer, we have application layer. Now, the question is that, what is the major difference then? The major difference is not those layers. The major question that should come to our mind is, what is the byproduct of those layers? If you look at data physical layer of OSI model and data link layer of OSI model, it equals to network access layer on TCP/IP. Both of these 2 layers, they are doing one thing the other side is doing. They are Ethernet, token ring, ATM, frame relay. In physical layer of OSI model, we know that it's bits. The information is converted from frame to electrical bits. That is 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. That is the language or what computer understand. Every time you try to go online, anything you do from the physical layer, from the application layer down the bottom layer, the encapsulation occur, and it's being converted to bit. That bit is the computer bits of 0, 1, 0, 1, or 0, 0, 0. It depends on the IP or the data or the frame the packet is carrying. What you just need to know that the information is being converted to bits, which is 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. That is what computer language. So now, if you look at the network layer, which is internet layer on TCP/IP, we have ARP, we have IP, we have IGMP, we have ICMP. Don't bother yourself in those things now. You should understand them. But the major one on the network layer or internet layer is IP, that's Internet Protocol. We talked about it the other day, but we still need to go in depth into it. All this one we are doing now is just like the basic, the introduction part of it. When we are doing subnetting, we will know much of IP and how it's been generated. And on the transport layer, which is transport layer on the TCP/IP2, we have TCP and we have UDP. These are the transport layer protocol. We talked about this one last week. We talked about TCP and UDP. TCP is connection oriented because it is always do packet retransmission, while UDP is connectionless. Connectionless in which sense? It means that when you are using UDP, the client or the server will not know, maybe the client is getting the message or not. It will keep sending. Like now, as I'm talking, I don't know whether you are hearing me or not. I'm still saying what I'm saying. That is, we are using UDP. So if in interview, somebody asks you, why do we need to use UDP? UDP is used majorly for video streaming or video games or Netflix. Those are the UDP. If you are watching Netflix, for example, your internet caught, they don't know the traffic. The server will keep sending. So that is example of UDP. And then on the application layer, presentation layer, session layer of OSI model, it's equals to only one layer on TCP/IP, which is application layer. On OSI model, anytime we go to YouTube or go to CNL, this is application layer that is interactive to the user, to end user like us. The only thing we see is the application. The presentation layer, session layer, we don't know anything about it. It is what they call, it's on delay process. So these are the protocols that reside on upper layer of OSI model or application layer on TCP/IP. HTTP, SMTP, Telnet, FTP, DNS, RIP, and SMTP. All these services, they call them services. And then yesterday, I asked some of us, or all of us, I sent a message that we should study services. So now, let's leave that. We'll need to ask question about it, but let's leave it to the end of the session. Maybe anybody that wants to say something about it, fine. So now, HTTP, it is major protocol we use when you are doing browsing. We'll see it when we do the practical side of it. SMTP is for mail. And the Telnet kind of remote connection, but it is not secure. So the opposite of Telnet, or the second one that is secure, is SSH. That's the one we use majorly. And then FTP, this is the file transfer protocol. This one is used to transfer file. I've attended so many interviews. They asked me about FTP. That why do we need to use FTP? The guys wanted to convince me, but I corrected him. I said, oh, you don't use FTP because FTP is not secure. You use SFTP. Okay. So now that is FTP for you. This was to transfer file. DNS, as the name suggests, it is domain name service. What it does, we'll see it on the lab. What it does is a name resolution. When we type google.com, google.com has an IP address, but it's difficult for a human being to just memorize all the IP all the time, but we can memorize domain names. So this one is the one that helps us to translate our domain names to IP address and then to appropriate server to get what we know we need. RIP. This is not SMP. This is routing IP protocol. This is one of the dynamic routing protocol. When we are doing routing protocol, we talk about this one, and then SMTP. This is just a repetition. This SMTP. Yeah. So at this point, some of these services that what we need to know is not what we need just to hear and walk away. If you ask me, oh, what are the things I need to pinpoint now or write down? TCP, UDP, HTTP, Telnet, FTP, DNS. Write this one down and then study more about it. It will help.
What did
And
you
then
call the Telnet?
Telnet is a remote connection.
Okay.
And then it's not secure. So we will look at it. We look at Telnet on the lab. We'll look at SSH in the lab. And then some of the services, we'll look at them on the lab. So any question about this? Because we have an objective or agenda that's okay, let's do whatever we can do from now. Today is what? Today is 5th. If we can cover all the basic of networking this month, we have 4 sessions. If we can cover it, and then next month, by God's grace, we enter the networking. At least I will teach about Palo Alto, how to secure network, and then by January we start doing interview. You don't need to be a guru before you start doing interview. You can start testing the water if you have the mind on your own. But what we determine how confident you are is not how many times we spend here, is how many times you spend after we left here, or how you handle the material given to you. Because if it's only this material I sent, it's only what you know. So believe me, it's more than enough. If it's only this one you know, it's more than enough. However, it may not be more than enough if you don't have hands-on experience. Hands-on experience will come in when we start doing something on the lab. This is simple topology of design. This money that we use, I want it when it is 12:30. I will hold it, and then we do some basic configuration, and then because it takes time in the lab, and then I don't want us to spend more than 1 hour. So this is 12:24. So, and then this particular lab, everybody can get it. So, and I would tell us all, guide us how we can set up our lab, because the only way to move forward or to get the kind of work hands-on is to have your own lab. And then when you have your own lab, you spend decent amount of time on it. And I mentioned decent because everything we'll be doing on the lab, that is what is applicable on the job environment. Okay, let's move forward. This is just a repetition of what I've said before. Common network protocols. Protocol is a standard way of doing certain action and formatting one to here. This is just definition. Protocol means rules that computers abide by to communicate between different nodes. Because if I'm speaking English, you are speaking Japanese, we cannot communicate. We cannot understand ourselves. That is protocol. The protocol must be the same on both sides. Both of the sides should understand, should agree on specific standard or format they want to communicate. That is protocol. So now we have talked about TCP, IP, POP, all this one, they are email email protocols, post office protocol, simple mail transport protocol. All these are mail. I've talked about this one just now, and the internet protocol. This is the IP. And like I said, these materials, even if it's only this one, you can read in a day, read it page by page. It took me 45 minutes to read everything. User diagram protocol. If you can go through them again, good for you. So now another one, almost the same thing, but let's just go through it a little bit. I talked about HTTP before, and this is HTTPS. This one is not secure. This one is secure. Anytime we go to, let me go to CNL.com. If you look at my screen, you see this key. This key means is secure. See here, connection is secure. So if you go further, it will show you that the certificate is valid. That's another thing entirely. We'll talk about certificate if I remember. So that is, I don't want to digress. That is HTTP and HTTPS and HTTP. If you go to any, okay, let me go to my own lab. If I go to my lab, see, it say not secure. Not secure here is not that it's HTTP. It means the certificate is not valid. Okay, somebody may be curious to ask, what is certificate? Certificate is just like authentication server. And then most of the registered domain, they have root certificate body that authenticate them, that approve them. Let me use that one, approve them that this domain is valid. So if we don't have such certificate attached to your browser or to your IP, it will bring this, but there's a way to work around it. But in an enterprise level, enterprise have authentication server, and then they have certificate authority. So that's it. If you forget everything, don't forget that HTTP is not secure. HTTPS is secure. If you go on any site with HTTP, because these are the interview question. I've attended interview question, they asked me what is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS. HTTP, we not hide your username and password. It will display them on a plain text. It will be on the plain text, but on the HTTPS, it will be encrypted. Because HTTPS is used what they call SSL. So others one, we still need to learn about it as we move on. DHCP is dynamic host configuration protocol, which is for what? Is for us to get IP address dynamically. Dynamically in which sense? Let me show you my okay. Somebody just note this one down. When we go to the lab, I will show it to us how it works. But what it means is, anytime you see your PC or you work in an environment that is very large, it is not expected that administrators should assign IP to all the PC or the workstation in the environment. There's what we have DHCP server that has automatically assigned IP to those devices. That is where we have this protocol. That is what it does. It assigns automatic, if you look at it, automate assignment of IP address in a network. The opposite of this is static. Dynamic, static. You'll be hearing this word as long as you continue this journey. Dynamic, static. So static is assigned by administrator or is done manually. This one is done automatically. Okay, let's move on. I talked about SSH before when we were talking about telnet. Anytime you think about telnet, remember this word. These are like opposite of them. HTTP is opposite of HTTPS. Please, if you forget everything, don't forget that. Telnet is the opposite of SSH. Telnet is a remote, Telnet is an application layer that enables users to communicate with a remote device. A telnet is installed, all this is a story. You see now, a telnet is installed on the user machine, which accesses the command line interface or remote that run the telnet server. You see now, that is why sometimes you may read the whole thing online and then you may not even get anything. How? Like this guy now, it does not do well on this definition. Okay, this is the definition of telnet, fine. But the key word there that is not secure is not saying it. But if you look at SSH, also known as secure shell or secure socket, is a network program that gives users, particularly system administrators, a secure way to access a computer over unsecure network. This statement should be embedded here. That is, a tenant is not secure. Though you can connect remotely, but it's not secure. Why? Somebody who has a packet sniper can capture whatever you use, at your username and your password on the fly. So that's when most organizations don't use Telnet. They don't even allow this Telnet. They enable SSH. This SSH is port 22. Okay, I've not been telling us the port number. Some of the one I know, I will let you know now. The HTTP is port 80. This one hypertext HTTPS is port 443. This is the most common one. If you forget everything, don't forget this one, 443, port 80. And then this one, SSH is port what? Is port 22. Example of SSH is this. If I want to connect to any of my server, look at it, because we started doing some of the hands-on so that we know why certain things is done. If you look at it, I have a server. This is my lab. It has an IP address. I want to connect to the command line. I will quickly talk about command line and then GUI maybe later. Okay, I'll put my IP address here. The IP address of my lab is 10.0.0.226. So now for me to connect to it, I use port 22. If you look at here, you see SSH. So if I click open, see, what I need to do is just to put my username and password. My username is root. My password is Eve. So now I've logged into my server. So if I want to do anything under here, I'll just start doing, I may do df -h. So, okay, I want to check my memory. I check my memory, I check my parts. So I start doing things behind the scene. So now this is what they call Telnet. This is what they call SSH. Where I've SSH to this. And it is secured. Nobody can get my username and password on the fly, even with the powerful packet sniffer. You can't get it because Telnet is secure using SSL. So, any question about this? Because somebody has lost a job because of this simple thing. And everything you call simple or you think it's very easy. It's easy to do. It's very easy not to do. They have somebody in a job environment. Can you please SSH to certain application? My guy went to the online and typed SSH. He was trying to check it online and he was sharing his screen with some of his colleagues. That's how they fire him. They know that this one doesn't know anything. What they were asking him is to SSH to the particular IP. This is what I did. That's what they want him to do. And then this application is a very good application. Let me cancel this one, close. This application, if you can see my screen, this is what they call, we download some of those tools that we'll be using on our own to get things done. So this is what they call terminal emulator. This one is porting. We have thousands of them, but this is the one major organizations use. It's called terminal emulator. It's majorly used to do SSH. I've not done Telnet to my port before, to my server before, but I don't know, maybe Telnet is allowed. Let me try it. 10.0.0. 226. But what I want you to pay attention to here is when I click SSH, it give me port 22. When I click Telnet, it could give me port what? Port 23. So now you just need to pay attention to that. Keep that in your node. SSH is port 22, Telnet is port 23. It's easy to know, but it's very, very easy to forget. Let me try to open it. But you see now, if you can see my screen, see, it says error connection refused. Do you know why? SSH Telnet is not enabled on this application. It's not enabled on this. It's an application. It's not enabled. So that's it. Let's move on. But somebody should remind me on this later. And file, let me tell you about file 2. This is an application to transfer file. All this one, we can download it, which will guide us in how to download it. This is what they call WinSCP. If you can see my screen. Okay, let me close it one first. Okay.
Sorry, please. I just want to ask a question.
Okay.
Yeah, the first place that you log into, is it command prompt, or I didn't really check when you log in to see the backend. Is it command prompt or you log into?
That's not command prompt. That is CLI.
Okay.
CLI means command line interface.
Okay.
So command prompt is used by Windows.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Because the okay.
So CLI is used majorly by Linux environment.
Because when I see the Linux environment, that's why I was asking that.
Yeah.
Is it command prompt that you learn?
No, it's CLI. So now, if you look at my screen, you see this protocol. You know, I was saying something about FTP and SFTP before. This is SFTP. If I go to new site, scroll down, you see we have SFTP, SCP. SCP means secure copy protocol. If I click on, please pay attention to this, SFTP, see the port number. If I click on FTP, see the port number. This is exactly the question the guy asked me on the interview. You see now, if you look at here, you see no encryption. When I bring up this one, see that one disappear, right? So that means this one is secured, the other one is not secure. SFTP is port 22, FTP is port 21. If you forget everything, don't forget that. Okay, let's move on. Okay, those are the major protocol or services we deal with every day by day. Those are the protocols we always allow on the firewall. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Another thing we need to know is how TCP works and how UDP works. This question always comes in every interview. Tell me, what is three-way handshake? What is three-way handshake? Because it's TCP and UDP. So now, I just want to quickly say this one, and then we'll move on. We have talked about transport. This one, we don't need to pay more attention to it much. But this one, three-way handshake, I want to deep dive on it. TCP three-way handshake, it occurs like this. If you look at my right-hand side or left-hand side, you see sender. The other one is receiver, but the guy made a mistake there. He should write a client or a server. Let's go online and quickly get another picture that can guide us very well. Let's type three-way handshake online. Three-way. Okay. Three-way handshake. You know why I love this industry now? It's easier than before, but it is easy to do. It is easy not to do. So now, if you look at my screen, you see client, it is server. This is how TCP connection starts. Oh, I've exceeded the timing, but no problem. Let's quickly check this one. Client and server connection on TCP. A client, when I type, anytime you type www.anything, the client will send thing to the server. If the server exists, it will reply with SYNAC. Once the server sends SYNAC, the client will reply with ACK. That is, SYN means synchronization, ACK means synchronization acknowledged. And the ACK means acknowledged. It's like I meet you for the first time. I must say hello. You say hello to me. That's the second reply. I will not say hi. So now it's three-way handshake. And if you look at it, state change to SYN sent, SYN received, state change to established. When the three hands complete, that's when the communication will start going on between the client and server. The question or one thing we can quickly ask is, what is different between the client and the server? And then what category can make a client or a server? Mind you, a client can become server, a server can become client. However, there are some dedicated server designed purposefully for a particular job. They will design them to become a server. That is specific. But like now, if I have something on my laptop, your laptop needs it, at that point, my laptop becomes your server because you are getting something from me. The other way around, if you have something on your laptop too, you want to transfer to me, I want to pick it up from your server, from your system system becomes a server at that point. But on the enterprise level, there are dedicated computers for that purposes. So let's move on. All this one, we talk much about all this one when we're doing subnetting. Maybe the next time we'll meet again, we'll be on subnetting. But let me check other thing we can quickly. Okay, when we are doing subnetting, I will cover all this IP, all this class B. I'll cover all this one on subnetting. We have talked about this one last week, routers, switches, and DNS. I've talked about DNS this morning. So let's move on. DNS record, we don't even need it. Firewall, we discussed firewall extensively. This is my own domain. This is where I get A1. So we talk much about this one. All this one I'm saying is based on how I spend time to read some of this material. It's not I didn't do all this every day, but it's part of what is expected of me to know. So let's quickly deep dive to a small lab. Maybe we can spend like 30 minutes if time still permits us. Oh, somebody is on the waiting room. Who is this? Sorry. So now let me log into this my lab. This is my own small lab. Somebody will now has, okay, wait a minute. Some people that don't know how we emulate or simulate what is expected in a job environment. We now ask, so why would we need lab? This is a simulation environment. It's like when you are trying to drive a car, somebody give you a dummy car to drive. But a dummy car they give you has everything a normal car should have. It has everything. So let me power it on. Don't bother yourself to master this one now. This is not what you'll be employed to be doing. This is just a simulation environment. I emphasize on it, it's a simulation environment. If you have any question, you can ask, but it's a simulation environment. This is not what you'll be expected your first time on the job that you want to see something like this. You'll be disappointed, you won't see something like this. What you will see is just your, you see something like this. You log into your team meeting and they start rolling. I have accounts for this team, but I will log in and then maybe I can have 2 or 3 people on it so that we can be sending something on team. So from there, we have flair of job scenario because all those small things matters. So to cut the story short, if you can see my screen, this is a typical example of how every network on planet looks like. These are the major 3 things they always have. The only thing I've now included here is a server, which I can make my router to be a server. So they have the client or the host. The other 2 ones are the what they call is the network infrastructure. These 2, the client is different from network infrastructure. You cannot say you cannot use PC as a switch. They are not the same. PC is end client. It's an host. All this switch is not an host. Router is not an host. They are network infrastructure. So how do we communicate? How do we bring them together to send data or to make them all of them communicate? There are some underlay configurations that goes in between. And then there's what they call, this one is, we have GUI. GUI versus CLI. You see, I just type it for you to see it. You see, GUI is graphical user interface. CLI means command line interface. When I went to this place the other time, when I went to this my server .10.0.226, this is when I open it and I put my address, I put my credentials, which is root and NE. I enter it. This is command line. This is CLI. When I come here, I log in here, I put my admin. If this is GUI, that is GUI, that is graphical user interface, is not the same thing. But most of the time, the question is, can we do what we can do here and the other side? It depends on the, okay, let me rephrase that. Say, can we do what we can do in this place, in this GUI and the command line? Can we do the same thing? The answer is yes and no. Yes, it says that there are some things we can get done here. There are some things you can get done here. There are some things you can do here, you can do here. So it is mixed. But just know that we can access most of the devices, almost all the devices on both sides. We can access them through GUI and through command line, period. So now, I will quickly open this one. This is Windows 10. If you can see my screen, this is Windows 10. Okay, how do we assign IP address to Windows 10? Any Windows whatsoever, how do we assign IP address to them? First of all, before you do anything, first of all, you need to go to the CMD, that is command prompt. You come here, you can type here, you can type it here, CMD, it will pop up. Or you can even write it completely, you can write it command line. It still pop up. So whatever the case, there's a flexibility of so many things, but as time goes by, we'll be knowing some of them. So now, for us to check our IP address, the only command that works on Windows is ipconfig. You click enter. So now we'll click enter, see that we have IP address here, we have subnet mask here. So now if you look at here, this is where we are talking about DHCP, auto configuration. It generates this IP address automatically. This is DHCP. So now DHCP will not work for us on this lab because for now, we don't have DHCP server. I have a lot of big lab, but let's take it easy, bit by bit, and then as time goes by, we get it. So now, for us to configure IP address on this window, click here. I would just want to follow the long route. If I want to follow the short route, I will right click here, and then this one will happen. This one will open. So we go to Ethernet. You go to Network and Sharing Center. You click on it, and then you click on Ethernet. If I'm too fast, let me know. And then you click on Properties. When the properties opens, you will see that it opens TCP/IP version 4, TCP/IP version 6. Most of the companies, most of the organizations they have not started using TCP/IP version 6. It is version 4. You click on 4 and you click on Properties again. Now, if you look at here, it says obtain an IP address automatically. This is DHCP. If I click here, it becomes static and I assign IP address. So I will assign IP address of 192.168.10.5 to my PC. So when I click here, automatically to display what they call subnet mask. Don't bother yourself, I will explain subnet mask. And the gateway, we have gateway. The gateway means where a particular route or particular traffic is going to follow to go outside. As your house, if you look at your house, you have door to go out. That's your gateway. Don't forget that. So now we need to assign our gateway IP address, 192.168.10.1. If I assign 1 on this interface. So, and the DNS server, we can assign our DNS server here too. Let me put my DNS server as 192.168.10.1 because I'm going to create a DNS server on this router quickly, and then we'll click OK. We'll click close. We'll click close. We'll click close. We'll click close, and then now for you to verify, you go back to your command prompt, run that same command again. ipconfig. Click enter. Look at it, it has assigned another IP address because we do it statically. If you look at here now, there's nothing like what you see here, auto configuration, you don't see it here. If you can do that on your PC right now, you see something like this. So don't spoil your system. If you change anything, you won't be able to connect to the internet for now. So let's move on. So now we have done that, but at this point, can we connect to this router? The answer is no. One command that we always use every day to test connectivity is a ping. Ping is a good command to troubleshoot connectivity. So now we want to test 192.168.10.1 if it's existing. We click enter. See, it's not continue because the server, the IP address is not even existing. Ordinarily, as I click enter, it should start communicating or show some signs that, oh, this IP is existing or not. But now just stagnant. So now if I press Ctrl+C, it should stop. So when I press Ctrl C, it stopped, but it didn't generate any traffic. It didn't generate any traffic. Let me close this one and open it again. Ping 192.168.10.1. So this is the what we should see in the first place. I'm pinging this IP address. It said destination host unreachable, unreachable, unreachable. So when we configure this router, you see the difference. And at every point, note something down if when there's small changes. So now this is a switch. This kind of switch is what they call unmanaged switch. I just plug it to the interface, and I plug this interface to it. I did not configure anything on this switch. It doesn't have an IP address. But this is a router. But the switch is majorly designed to expand network. It doesn't create network. Router creates network and route traffic. That's the way the name comes in, router. It creates network and route traffic. If you forget everything, don't just forget that simple definition. There are a lot of big definition online, but you may not get it simple. So router creates network and route traffic. So now there's a way to manage router. How do we manage routers? We go to the command line and put some configuration before we can access it. And then don't forget, this is a Cisco router. This one is a Cisco router. This is Cisco switch. We have thousands of other vendors out there doing the same thing like Cisco, but Cisco dominated the environment of the market shares of switches and routers, but it did not do well in network in security. We'll talk about that one later. So now what we want to test is we want to see how DNS and then HTTP TCP UDP. Okay, you can quickly check how these four protocols works in every environment when it comes to networking. So, but this is 1 o'clock. For us not to have information overload, can we stop it like this or shall we continue? Oh, I haven't. Hello.
Hello.
If you have the time, we can continue. I don't know about others.
Any objection, or should we continue? Or call it a day?
Let's go
Or if
ahead.
you have any questions, let's talk about it quickly.
Let's continue.
We can continue.
Okay, cool. So now, each of these devices have their command line. We have seen the one on window. This is the window on. And then now, if I click on switch, I have one application I'm using to get a command line here. This is Secure CRT. Don't bother yourself about it. There are so many of them out there we can use, but I'm using Secure CRT. This is paid version. So on the switch, once you click enter, you see, this is the switch. You write switch there. But it's a unmanaged switch. When we are doing VLANs, because we're going to do VLANs, I will show you how to manage switch, how to do VLAN and all that on switch. Everything I'm saying since morning, this is just a LAN. We have not talked about WAN. When we're doing security, I'll talk about LAN and WAN. But now, at this point, this is a LAN. This is a local area network. So now we have a managed switch, but let's quickly configure our router. How do we configure Cisco router? So this is how to do it. We put no here. This is how to configure Cisco router. This is you are assuming that when you enter, you are being given a brand new Cisco router, which is not possible. You are not the one that will open the company for them. Every company we work or we are going to work as the existing. All this one, you don't have the overview of how they operate. You won't be the one that will go there and be doing all this. However, if you find yourself in consulting, like where I work, I go to client and deploy all this and manage all this. So that's why most of the people that work in the environment as security engineer, quote me, many of them are not security engineers. Some of them are administrators. Administrators manage rules, configure IPs. They don't do more than that. Engineers, they troubleshoot devices. They deploy and install. Not everybody does that. Okay. Now this is our router interface. If you look at it, look at this greater sign. That particular point is called user mode. It's just a user mode. So for us to go to configuration mode, we use enable. You can use only these two commands, en, or write enable. It's still the same thing. You get the same result. Click enter. So now it has taken us from this greater sign to this hashtag. From this hashtag, a lot can be done. We can do configuration. We can check so many things. That's it. So now, but we don't want to go that route today. I'll dedicate another time to walk us through how to do a lot of stuff on Cisco router. So now, what's our agenda for today is this. Oh my God, this thing has even disappeared. Oh, okay, let me write it again, please. We want to talk about DNS, HTTP, what again? DNS, HTTP, TCP, UDP, what again? We are talking about DCP. Okay. DNS, you see all this port number as you move on. DNS is port 53, either on TCP or UDP. Don't forget that, port 53. They only ask about this question on interview. So now let's go back to our command line for the router. So what are we going to do now? We just need to go to another mode.
The DNS is port what?
Port 53.
53?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please don't forget. So now let's go to this route. We do configure terminal. I'm writing all this out just because of you. How? I can use short form and move on. This is configure terminal. We click enter. It will take you from that mode to another mode, which is global configuration mode. You look at it, you say router config. So now we want to name our router another name. We type this command, host name. This is for switch Cisco switch, a Cisco router. Some other vendors use similar method, but this is Cisco environment, and there is the most common environment we always find ourselves. So host name. So let's give it a host name. Which name can we name this our stuff? Let's name it any random name. Let's say this is Georgia. Okay, let's call it Texas. Texas.com. .com. Click enter. You see, the name has changed from router to Texas.com. So now we need to assign an IP address on this interface. This is what they call interface. If you look at G/0/1, that is interface. You need to assign an IP address there. So I'm going to assign an IP address to this interface. We do interface space particular interface we want to assign G0/0. We are specifying where we want to put particular IP. So now on this my lab, I want to put IP. The IP I want to put here is 192.168.10.0/24. When we start doing subnetting, you will know much about all this /24. Don't bother yourself, but just know the one you can know now. So this is our subnet. So on this subnet, I will assign an IP address to this router, which I've done to this. This one has IP of .5. We have .5 here. Don't forget. And then here we have .1 because this is our gateway. It can be anyone, but that is one we want to assign. .1. And then the key thing in every environment you find ourselves is don't assume, always ask question. If you have any question, let me know. So let's move on. So now at this point, we know that we are working with this interface and we want to assign .1. So we click enter. When we click enter, we put this command IP address. Okay, somebody is joining. IP address is a short form of address, but let me complete it because of some of us. IP address space, you put the number IP address you want to assign 192.168.10.1/24 means 255.255.255.0. That is /24. I will explain all that when we are doing subnetting. We click enter. So now we have clicked enter, but on Cisco router, if you don't run that command, it will not on. We run this command, no shots. No shot means no shots down. See, no shot down. You click enter. Now the interface is up and running. If you want to confirm that, if you go to our window, the same thing we did before, that we try to ping that particular IP, we do it again. We say ping 192.168.10.1. It should fly now. See now, it's communicating. This is only what networking is doing, just to communicate and share data, finish. Now we can confirm that that particular device is on our network. If we cannot get it, that means not existing. For example, now if I do /.2, you can't get it because it's not existing for now. I can do another device that will have that particular IP, but for now it's not existing. But you can see that if we ping this router, we have what they call time to live. This is a reply. We are getting reply. See it here? There's a reply from this. If we don't get a reply, that means there's nothing going on them. I can filter this IP, this particular thing for you now, but we'll move on. I want to short the time and then we quickly test. Okay, let me add something here too. ICMP. ICMP. Because ICMP is the protocol of ping. Okay. So now, at this point, quickly, we have configured our router. At this point, we have configured our router. So what we want to do again now, we want to make our router a DNS server. Let me test this one first. And as I'm testing, just pay attention to it. At this point, if you are in an organization, somebody give you, say, oh, somebody come to you, say, I cannot reach certain things. I cannot reach particular site. Say, give me the IP. The person doesn't know the IP. Okay, give me the name of this of the site. So the person now say, okay, the name of the site is Texas. Texas what we give that IP. Texas what is it? Texas.com also?
.com.
Okay, Texas.com. Okay, so give me. We now say NS lookup. This is another command to check particular site or to convert the IP the domain name to IP address. You see, NS lookup. You put the name of the site. So now we have what? We have Texas.com. Texas.com. So now if I click enter, you see what will tell me. See? See, it cannot resolve it, but it's telling us that server unknown. You see? But you notice that this Texas, because of that, our router has this name, but it's still telling us the address. You see this address, but it says server unknown. But when I configure this router when I configure this router as its DNS, you see the difference now. Just pay attention to this one. Let's move on to our router. So our router, so I will do exit here. This guy there. I'll do exit here. So to configure a Cisco router as a DNS server, this is what you do. The first step is to, okay, let me exit finally. Or you can run another command, end. If you look at what happened here, Cisco is not sensitive to IP, to either uppercase or lowercase. But if it is Linux, Linux is very sensitive. I'll just introduce you to Linux and the basic command configuration, basic command to check things. So to convert Cisco router to DNS server, you do like this. You just do config T, that is configure terminal, and then you run this IP DNS server. With this command, you convert the router to server. You just click enter. So another command you need to run is IP domain lookup. IP domain lookup. You run this command. You click enter. These are the set of commands that need to be concurrently run on the router to get complete work done. So after you run that one, you run another command we call IP name dash server, and then we now put the name the IP of our server now, which is 192.168.10.1. You click enter. So at this point, what we have succeeded in doing, we have succeeded in converting our router to DNS server. So now, if you want to make sure that, okay, let me just do another test. Okay, let me do end here. I do end. So let me ping Abby. Ping Abby. So you cannot ping Abby because we have not indicated any IP address to be Abby there. So now let's do it here. We do config T again, and then we do IP host, which is Abby. We now put the IP address 192.168.10.5. That's our window. We click enter. Now, if you do end, can say ping Abby now. Ping Abby. Okay. Ping Abby. Now, you can ping Abby because it can resolve the name to IP. You see, you can ping this window because it can resolve the name. So we have converted it to DNS server. How can we check that? We go back to our window, and then we do what we did before. We do NS lookup of that .com. See now, he has done this. This is the name. This is the IP address. When I first did it, it just showed the, what do they call it? It showed the gateway, but it replied that DNS request timeout. But on this place, DNS worked. Okay, if I want to know, maybe really this thing work or not, I will not do, I'll do capture. I'll do capture on that interface. This is Wireshark. Don't bother yourself, but we'll get there. This is the Wireshark. This one is using an organization to check the traffic. Okay, now I will go back again to my window, run that same command, NS lookup Texas. So now I'll go to Wireshark quickly and stop it and maximize it. So if you can see my window or my screen, you see that this IP, this is source IP going to this with DNS. And there is replying it with DNS. So now, if you look at it more, if you look down here, see the name, domain name system. If you click here, you see some queries and all that. See I told you before that DNS is using UDP, which is port 53. Look at it here. Destination port is 53. Ethernet protocol. That is all this you are seeing. This is the layer of OSM module. Ethernet protocol works on layer 3, which is the source IP address, destination IP address. All this what we are doing now, this is high level of it. There's nothing anybody who has been in the industry can tell you more than this. Even some people don't know how to do Wireshark. This is layer 2. The frame is layer 1. This is the bit. So now we have seen the DNS, how it's been translated, how we can capture it. That is DNS for you. So now another thing we can quickly check is HTTP. How this one, I have a server of my lab that I have a Windows Server 2016 that we can create DNS server, HTTP server, DHCP server, any server we want on it. But this one, you can convert your router to be all that to test how things work. So now, another thing I will quickly do on this same router is I will do HTTP. I will convert this one to be HTTP. So how can we do that? We do config T, that is configure terminal. Configure terminal. You click enter, and then we do what? You do IP HTTP, and then we write server. Click enter. Now we have converted this to the HTTP server, but it's not ended. So how can we get it? We do IP HTTP authentication. How? Local. I'm not doing it for you to memorize all this command. We're just to prove how we generate those ports and how it works. So don't bother yourself majorly if you don't get it, but just pay attention how it's done. And if over time, when I do it again, it will not be new to you if you don't know it before. So now we have done HTTP server. The authentication is local. And then now we need to assign the name and the password. How do we do that? We use username. Username will be admin. And the privilege. These are the commands that is you can manipulate it. It's not me forming it from my head. From the vendor. This is how you configure it. If you want the command is online, I can send it to you if you have a lab. So the privilege is 15. You can give somebody privilege of from 1 to 15, but high privilege is 15, and you can do a lot of stuff. Secret is our password. Secret is our password. Our password will be admin. So now we have admin user secret. That's the password admin. We click enter. Now, if we go to our window again, we open a browser, and then we type this IP address, or we type the name, because we have a DNS server on it already. So we type texas.com. Let me use, maybe it's going to get this one. Texas.com. Let's check, maybe we're going to resolve it. Okay, it resolved it. It asks us to log in. So we put admin. You click enter. So now it shows that we can get to this website. This is a website, texas.com. How do we come here? We come through DNS, because there's a DNS server that resolved that name to what? To the IP. How do we know that? So let's run another. I've stopped this one already. Let's cancel this one. Let's run another capture on this. This is a Wireshark. You see HTTP, and then you see DNS. So now, for you to test it, you need to run the command again. So how do we do that? I'll close this one. I'll close this browser. And then I'll open it again. I will now do texas.com. Texas.com is already populated there. So I'll click here. See, I put admin, click enter. So now, let me stop this one and quickly show us some things, and then maybe from here we'll call it today. Let me stop here. Okay. If you look at my screen, you see a lot of stuff going on there. So let's do DNS. Let's filter with DNS. You see, it's a DNS traffic from source to destination on port 53. If you filter with HTTP, we filter here, we go here, we say filter. You see, we have HTTP GET, hypertext protest protocol, look at it. Transmission protocol, look at it. TCP is on port 80. And then the three-way handshake, let me cancel this one to see the three-way handshake. Because when I try to log into the server, something happened before connection occurred. Look at it, if you look at, see my screen, see the first one is SYNAC ACK. If you look at it, you see the first packet is the same IP, the same. Don't look at it from, oh, it sends SUSE. No, look at it from client to server and client. Because when the client first send it, no reply. He send it again. You see? SYNAC hack. And then this is what they call HTTP GET. And then in every communication or every connection between a server and client, there will be a time they will need to stop connectivity. Well, that is FIN. You see, when it's trying to stop, it send the ACK again. It send FIN ACK, it send ACK. That is when the traffic will be stopped, and then session layer works on that. It keeps the session, and then when the communication ends, it terminates and clear the communication. So if we do, let's do TCP on this TCP, and then we follow stream, TCP stream. You see this code. Anytime there's connectivity, there's no problem. This is 200 code. It will show that everything works fine. There's no problem. There are some other codes, 300, 400, 500, that indicate different problems on the network. But don't forget it. You can still learn a lot outside there. You can watch so many other videos. But this is how you can capture your packet. You can see which port number is allowed, which port particular protocol is working on, apart from just merely listening or just assuming. You see that, oh, if you are running certain application, this is the port number they run on. We have seen DNS, we have seen HTTP, we have seen three-way handshake on TCP and UDP. UDP doesn't have three-way handshake, but it's on DNS. If you look at DNS, that time I show you that we have port 53. And the DHCP, we talk about it. And then now, another one I need to show quickly is ICMP. If I run a ping from my Windows system to the server. Okay, before I do that, let me close this one and open it again. Because I'll stop already. Capture. Okay. So I run a ping, you see ICMP protocol. So now let's go back to the window. Now, if you look at it, nothing's going on. You see, behind the scene, nothing's going on. It's not capturing anything. So now I will go back to my window and then do a ping command. Ping. Because we have the DNS server, we can ping that particular domain name. That is texas.com. Texas.com. So if you look at it now, you see okay. Okay. I don't see the traffic here. Let me run it again. Let me run this one again and we'll call it from there. Okay. Tesla.com -t. -t means I want it to be pinging continuously. So it will continue pinging until I stop it. So let's check our packet tracer. If you look at it, it shows that somebody's pinging. This is echo request. Let me stop this one before. So it's pinging. The pinging is coming from 10.5 ICMP DNS. ICMP DNS is coming from this. So look at the ping. Is called ICMP means Internet Control Message Protocol. Is majorly designed to test too. So Internet Protocol. See version what? Version 4. So source IP, destination IP. What again? The frame, time to live. So that is where we're going to call it a day now. So anybody with question or questions? Let me stop sharing. Let me stop the recording.